Good evening and welcome to the Bicentennial Franklin Institute Awards Ceremony and Dinner. Lynn and I are excited to chair such an extraordinary ceremony together, especially during this monumental year. This is our favorite event to be a part of and to attend every spring.
The success of this event is due to the leadership, time, and generosity of so many. We would like to thank Vice Chair Jamie McKeon, the Awards Corporate Committee, and the Bicentennial Awards Committee. And we thank all of you for your presence and support. It is because of everyone in this room that we have broken fundraising records, over $1 million raised.
The proceeds from tonight go toward the important and far-reaching work of TFI to inspire within millions of students, educators, kids and adults, a passion for learning about science and technology. Every day, TFI inspires the next generation of STEM leaders.
We extend a special thanks to the 200th anniversary sponsors who are generous supporters of this evening, as well as the Awards Week educational programming that took place throughout the city, the Hess Foundation, PNC Bank, and UST.
It is with gratitude that we acknowledge our associate sponsors, the Danaher Lynch Family Foundation, Essential Utilities, Independence Blue Cross, McKinsey & Company, the Morrell Family Foundation, Morgan Lewis and Bacchius, and Marcia and Jeffrey Perlman. And thank you to our patron sponsors and benefactor sponsors, whose names you will see on the side screens and in the program.
Finally, tonight would not be possible without Bank of America's tremendous investment as presenting sponsor of the award ceremony and dinner. We are grateful for the leadership and support they have provided for over 2 decades. We are thrilled that you are all here to celebrate the 2024 laureates, and we look forward to seeing you all on the dance floor after dinner, right here in the Benjamin Franklin National Memorial.
Please welcome the 2024 Franklin Institute laureates, escorted by their laureate sponsors. Robert M. Metcalf, escorted by Fazia Ahmed. Lisa Sue, escorted by Michael Useem. Mary C. Boyce, escorted by Richard Laverty. Janet F. Worker, escorted by Barbara Malt. Paula T. Hammond, escorted by Christopher Murray. Paul D. N. Hebert, escorted by Peter Petratus. David A. Waits, escorted by Arjun Yode. Gabriella S. Schlau-Cohen, escorted by Marcia Lester. Joanne Corey, escorted by Nancy Bonini and Pamela Green. And introducing Chair of the Franklin Institute Board of Trustees, Thomas J. Lynch, and the Franklin Institute President and CEO, Larry Dubinsky. And our Master of Ceremonies, the Franklin Institute's Chief Astronomer, Derek Pitts.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be serving as your Master of Ceremonies as we pay tribute to the visionary work of this year's 9 laureates. They join an exclusive community of scientists, engineers, inventors, and business leaders dating back 200 years. Past award recipients include Marie Curie, Nikola Tesla, Orville Wright, Albert Einstein, and modern greats like Jane Goodall, Bill Gates, Vint Cerf, Indra Nooyi, Caitlin Carrico, and Drew Weissman, as well as others who have joined us for this very special occasion, this very special year. The Franklin Institute turned 200 years young in February. Isn't that amazing? And to think, I've been here for about 1/4 of this time. I think we've both aged rather well, wouldn't you agree? But let's consider what this anniversary means for TFI and for everyone who regards this place a partner in STEM education. What comes to mind as most significant is not that we have kept pace with advancements in STEM, though this is important, but that TFI has brought educational value. There hasn't been a time when TFI has not been a convener across the country and across continents. We saw this just last week during our solar eclipse viewing party. "8,000 people came out to TFI's front steps and lawn. They were up and down both sides of 20th Street. With a PA system, I guided everyone through the stages of the eclipse. But why did so many people come out to the Franklin Institute for this event when they could have stayed home and watched the eclipse from their backyards? I think it's because we want to experience things alongside other humans and to say that we were there. Events and programs that facilitate shared experiences make us a part of a community, not separate. But our community isn't just in TFI's backyard. With STEM programming in over 30 states, we're connecting the country. And through this awards program, we recognize the most brilliant minds in the world. Every day, TFI works to remove barriers that keep people from participating in science. In Philadelphia, we build exhibits that are inclusive of a variety of backgrounds and recognized globally for their excellence. Across the country, we work with museums, libraries, and community centers to design STEM programs. And the people for whom these programs and exhibits exist, they're invited to be a part of this process. Now, this all started with an idea to create a place where forward-thinking, science-minded citizens could gather, all in honor of our namesake, Benjamin Franklin.
In 1790, just 6 months after the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, time closed its chapter on Benjamin Franklin. He'd spent his life unraveling nature's secrets while helping to write the story of America. In the end, he'd witnessed only the prologue. But his ideas endure, and while history may have bid farewell to Benjamin Franklin, Franklin wasn't quite finished making history. This is the story of what came next. It was a time of beginnings, a new century, a new generation of Americans grappling with another revolution spreading from abroad. Not political, but industrial. A handful of Philadelphians asked the question, how could the new world keep up with the old? They rallied around the legacy of America's greatest scientist, and the Franklin Institute began as an idea that prosperity would follow in the tracks of scientific discovery and invention. A training ground dedicated to the mechanical arts, open to all. And with a new tradition of recognizing great innovation around the world, the idea took flight. The Franklin Institute set upon doing the science that built America. Its research would help light homes with natural gas, help pave the country's roads. In its first home on 7th Street, the mechanical dreams of prolific engineers took shape on the work tables, and the tradition stood that here, always, would be a celebration of the next big thing. Electric lights, machines that offered humanity the skies. The scientists heralding each new age were celebrated in Philadelphia. The Franklin Institute would draw 300,000 people to an exhibition of technology powered by the object of Ben Franklin's ultimate scientific passion, electricity. It was the key to a brand new world. By the 20th century, that world was changing at the speed of light. Human speech took to the airwaves. Space became curved. Vacuum tubes and circuitry replaced the nuts and bolts innovations in the halls of the Franklin Institute, and the old idea kept growing, with a commitment to hands-on science learning, a new way to reach more people than ever before, a new building, a wonderland of science. Here, humanity was once again catapulted into a new era as crowds gathered around to watch the first large-scale television broadcast. The universe was expanding. The dream of a world bettered by science persisted at the Franklin Institute. In the Fells Planetarium, and from the country's first public observatory, people could see farther than ever before. Science got a great big heart, and it was made of paper mache, then rendered in fiberglass as showcases filled with transistors became exhibitions on the power of silicon. Beyond the ever-expanding walls, into schools and communities. With new innovations in teaching STEM, the Franklin Institute would begin to change the very nature of informal science education across the country. The idea grew larger than ever. Science for everyone. In the new century, exhibitions from around the world would fetch millions, and in the years since, millions and millions more would visit, coming today for the same reasons as 200 years ago, to see what lies ahead, to glimpse the next steps, and from what we've seen, their giant leaps. World-changing technologies like AI, breakthroughs that extend our lifespans, new digital dimensions that push the boundaries of the human experience, and technologies that put the very sky behind us as our aspirations turn to higher things. What lies beyond this? Another 2 centuries beyond the horizon. If the past has taught us anything, it's that as history grows longer, the future seems bigger and boundless, and the extraordinary things to come will be set in motion today. And that's why we're here, to be inspired by it all, then to roll up our sleeves and do the work of inspiring others. And like Ben Franklin did in his time, light a spark that endures and become the prologue to the stories of generations to come. The next steps. That's the idea.
The prologue to the stories of generations to come. I love that. Each of the laureates we are honoring is a trailblazer, Their discoveries and advancements in science, technology, and industry are transforming our lives and futures. They're joining TFI's story tonight and are the beginning of what's next. Our first award, the Benjamin Franklin Next Gen Award, recognizes an investigator in the early phase of their career. This award commends an exceptional, cutting-edge discovery, invention, or development in science or engineering. By debuting this award 3 years ago, TFI has created even greater opportunity to pay tribute to achievements that spark innovations in science and technology. All around us, nature is hard at work turning sunlight into energy. Gabriella Schlau-Cohen is paying attention, learning the secrets of photosynthesis and opening the door for revolutionary new techniques in agriculture.
"85% of Earth's biomass takes root where opportunity meets sunlight." To a plant, the life-giving sun can be a challenge of extremes, bright and unyielding, then suddenly absent. The pendulum swings, day by day, hour by hour, from 1 second to the next. In an underground lab at MIT beyond the sun's reach, Gabriella Schlau-Cohen is revealing how plants endure the changing sun, and in the process, how humanity might endure the challenges of a changing Earth.
So I grew up in suburban Philadelphia. Originally, I wanted to be an actress.
Those aspirations would not survive Lower Merion High School chemistry, where Schlau-Cohen's teacher introduced her to a mystifying reality of quantum physics, that an object can be both a ball and a wave.
I found that so fascinating because it was this idea that in the microscopic world, things are so different from what we see and experience in the macroscopic world.
She traded stage life for lab life, where she'd eventually home in on the molecular mysteries of photosynthesis.
The machinery of photosynthesis is wildly complex, like this Rube Goldberg machine. A packet of light enters the leaf, setting off an energetic reaction that eventually produces sugar. Insufficient sunlight starves the plant, but too much sun overtaxes the machinery, killing the plant.
Scientists knew that plants release protective sunscreens that toggle photosynthesis on and off with the changing sun, but no one understood how. The first steps of photosynthesis happen too quickly to see.
I mean, on the femtosecond timescale, a millionth of a billionth of a second. So if we want to study something that fast, we need something even faster.
Turning some of the fastest pulsing lasers in existence onto the molecular engines of photosynthesis, Schlau-Cohen found the very proteins responsible for the sunscreen trigger. Suddenly, agricultural researchers around the world were paying attention.
One of the biggest challenges facing us as a society is the fact that there's a growing mismatch between the food that we need and the food that we're producing.
Scientists predict that by 2050, world agriculture will fall short of meeting the rising demand for food, circumstances driven by population growth and climate change.
One major revelation derived from Schlau-Cohen's work is that plants may be a little too cautious with sunscreens. Some research shows that modifying the sunscreen switch in crops, making photosynthesis more active, leads to greater yields.
The technique is inspired by Schlau-Cohen's work, and if perfected and widely adopted, projections suggest a potential food surplus significant enough to avert the shortfall, ensuring the basic needs of humanity for generations to come.
I think I'm someone who's really passionate about what I do, like a lot of what I do. I'm passionate about science, I'm passionate about learning about the world, I'm passionate about being a mom, being a friend, being a partner, care a lot about what I do and about the world around me. And I think that's a lot of what motivates me to keep going and work on what I really care about.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Next Gen Award, Gabriella Schlau-Cohen. David Waits finds structure in the chaotic physics of fluids and other malleable materials, concocting innovations in everything from food science to medical diagnostics, one droplet at a time.
I grew up in Canada, and the goal of all Canadians is to play hockey, and I never could play hockey, so I had to do something else.
For Ottawa-born David Waits, something else would turn out to be far more than our short film can cover. From advancing the physics of glass and polymers, to revolutionary genetic sequencing technology, to commercial cosmetics, Waits' portfolio of accomplishments is impossible to summarize. And while a quick search of his professional CV turns up skating, it doesn't mention hockey once.
I learned how to walk before I learned how to skate. And so in Canada, you can't play hockey seriously if you do that.
Officially, Waits is one of Harvard's premier soft matter physicists. Soft matter being stuff you can deform: plastic, toothpaste, potatoes, skin, and endless materials critical to our lives, down to the liquid crystals in our phone displays.
That's the excitement of the field, that there's so many problems.
In the 1970s, one standout problem for soft matter physicists was technically their field didn't exist, at least not formally. After earning his PhD from Harvard in 1978 and joining Exxon to research science important to oil recovery, Waits helped establish the field, inventing groundbreaking new laboratory technology for studying soft materials, making contributions to our understanding of foams and gels. In 1995, he transitioned back to academia, where he continued innovating with fascinating technologies like microfluidics.
So microfluidics is the manipulation of fluids at the micron scale.
A human hair is 100 microns thick. The tubes in these miniature chip-sized plumbing systems can be far thinner. They allow Waits to mix unmixable substances, like oil and water, with high precision. The system makes microscopic droplets of each ingredient. At this small scale, physics keeps the bubbles intact as they combine. The result is an emulsion that doesn't separate.
At the time, people said there's no way you could make enough material that you could actually do something practical. You made every droplet separately, one by one.
Waits responded by engineering a system that could produce at commercial scales, selling a revolutionary skin moisturizer to cosmetic giant Chanel.
With the magic of microfluidics, Waits also created a trailblazing new way to sequence the DNA of individual cells, one by one, at high speed.
There's so much more. Lab-on-a-chip technology that can manufacture personalized drugs at a patient's bedside, and rapid disease testing devices with lab-level accuracy. Waits has helped found 26 companies touting unique advancements in science and biotech. Around campus, Waits is known for creating one of Harvard's most famous courses.
I remember when it started, a postdoc came to me and said he'd like to invite Ferran Adria to visit Harvard. And I said, well, who's he? He said, he's the best chef in the world. 2 hours before the talk, there were so many people in the room that we had to get the police to clear out the aisles. The guy was basically a rock star.
Waits seized onto the idea that he could generate interest in physics through food, and Science and Cooking was born. Each week features a celebrity chef and a follow-up lecture on the relevant soft matter physics. Today, it is a Harvard phenomenon. Waits' journey is far from over. Every new discovery brings new questions, and in those questions, Waits finds the next steps.
I do this not in a vacuum. I do this with students and with postdocs. My motto is I'll stay as late as the last student. People say I work hard, but as I say, if I had to work, I'd be retired. So I just have fun hard.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the Bauer Award and Prize for Achievement in Science, David Waits. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce the president and the CEO of the Franklin Institute, Larry Dubinsky.
Good evening, and thank you for being here to celebrate these tremendous laureates and support the Franklin Institute's mission to inspire and educate. When we were planning our 200th anniversary year, we knew that the Bicentennial Awards program would be the focal point. Tonight, we learn from the past, we honor the present, and we look to the future in TFI's next century with great hope and optimism. It has been an incredible week. Over 8,000 school children, who are among the 150,000 students that visit every year on field trips, came to the Franklin Institute and explored space science, biosciences, physics, and engineering. The laureates visited with our youth program students to share their wisdom and inspire them to follow in their footsteps. As we celebrate our 200th anniversary this year, we build upon the momentum that came with the opening of the transformational Nicholas and Athena Karabat's Pavilion. Thank you, Athena. Launching our Mission WOW campaign, which reimagines TFI for its third century, we opened our international award-winning Wondrous Space exhibit last November. And this fall, 2 more phenomenal core exhibits will be revealed. A new human body exhibit with the iconic giant heart as its centerpiece, and the Hamilton Collections Gallery, which houses the Baldwin 60,000 steam locomotive, along with thousands of artifacts curated from TFI's collections. While our eyes are set on the next 100 years, I want to acknowledge TFI's extraordinary leaders, our Board of Trustees, past and present, whose commitment to this institution is unmatched. I thank you. On this historic anniversary, I also want to recognize the visionary leadership of past board chairs, Jim Unruh, Marcia Perlman, Don Morell, and current board chair Tom Lynch. Each of these individuals has provided invaluable wisdom, business acumen, and generosity that have been the key to the Franklin Institute's success over the last 30 years. Thank you. And tonight would not be possible without the efforts of Bicentennial Awards co-chairs Jim and Lynn Dever. It has been a wonderful year working with them. The Devers endeavored to make this bicentennial celebration the best ever, and they clearly achieved that. I would also like to thank Vice Chair Jamie McKeon for all of her efforts. Thank you, Jamie. And Jim, thank you also for making Bank of America's 22nd year as presenting sponsor a reality. And to your team, Managing Director and Franklin Institute Trustee Rob McMiniman and Senior Vice President Debbie O'Brien, I thank the Bank of America team and support. This awards program is just one of the many ways TFI inspires others with the wonders of science and extends its mission beyond its exhibit walls. TFI is a national leader in creating and implementing STEM education initiatives across the country and has long been at the forefront of engaging middle and high school students through its intensive youth programs. We are proud to have a long list of impressive and successful alumni and are delighted to have one with us this evening. Justice Passay graduated from Lincoln High School in Philadelphia and TFI's High School STEM Scholars Program in 2020. Justice is now at the Fox School of Business at Temple University, studying business administration and management information systems. He'll be graduating in 2025, but has already begun a full-time job at Merck as a cloud security engineer. Justice, welcome.
Thank you, Larry. I am honored to be a part of this ceremony and on this stage next to such brilliant business leaders and STEM professionals who are making incredible discoveries, creating solutions that improve our world and helping us inhabit the universe more thoughtfully and informed. Every year, students in TFI's youth programs have the opportunity to meet the laureates and participate in the panel discussion with the laureates. Having met many of the laureates over the years, it's exciting now to be a part of the ceremony. I joined the STEM Scholars my freshman year along with 19 other students. It was amazing. There was a lot of rushing testosterone and pheromones, but we all got through the program together, so. For those that don't know, STEM Scholars is a 4-year immersive STEM program that exposes urban youth to a wide range of STEM programs. The workshops range from computer science, engineering, health equity, neuroscience, and technology. In our junior year, we are participating in intensive ACT prep and summer internships, and we prepare for a life after high school. For some of us, that meant a 4-year university, and for others, it was trade school. By the time we graduated, we have completed about 550 hours of programming. I think that's much better than being in front of a TV screen, so. STEM Scholars youth are eager to learn and are hungry for educational experiences and opportunities beyond the classroom, be it a lab, entrepreneurial incubator, research conference, or exploring the depths of the ocean floor. What captivated me and many of us in this program was the potential and the possibility of being part of something greater than oneself. Much like our laureates here today, we want to make breakthroughs in science and be pioneers of change. STEM Scholars is a launch pad for young minds embarking on their STEM journeys. Many of us are the first in our families to attend college, and STEM Scholars prepared us for the next step. Through the program, we meet scientists, engineers, researchers, surgeons, and more. And we learn about diverse career opportunities. The possibility of career in STEM was brought into our view, and we are given the confidence and the platform to take hold of our dreams. It's been 4 years since I graduated from the STEM Scholars, but I can't stay away from the Franklin Institute. I love volunteering, and I know you guys do too. And when I can, I always am here supporting the STEM Scholars, being here with the students and the staff members, because it is truly a community here worth being a part of. I know the value of the STEM Scholars Program, and I know the potential of each STEM Scholar. We have been given the tools to make a deep impression on this world, and we have great faith that we will. Thank you.
Proof positive that the STEM Scholars Program is creating bright students with a great future ahead of them, and we look forward to everything that comes out of that program. Thank you again, Justice. Before I announce the next laureates, I would like to acknowledge the hard work of the committees responsible for identifying and selecting our award winners each year. The Committee on Science and the Arts, chaired by Dr. Maria Iavaroni of Temple University. The Bauer Business Awards Selection Committee, chaired by Dr. Michael Useem of the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. And the International Selection Committee for the Bauer Award for Achievement in Science, chaired by TFI trustee Dr. Paul Offit of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania. It's due to their diligence and commitment to a selection process that can take years to complete that we are able to celebrate the individuals on stage. Please join me in thanking our committee members for their dedication to preserving and advancing the legacy of the awards program. With his history-making push into the vast frontiers of Earth's biodiversity, Paul Hébert charts an ambitious course. Combining crowdsourced samples with cutting-edge technology, Hébert leads an effort to record all the life on Earth.
Deep in the Congo, a technician empties a trap containing thousands of insects, preparing them for shipment. The same scenario plays out in the Peruvian rainforest, again on a cold Baltic shore, the Mojave Desert, coastal Chile, Indonesia, Alaska, the Ganges Delta, the Sargasso Sea. The sealed containers arrive at a secure facility in Canada where Paul Hébert and researchers work around the clock on one of the most audacious scientific endeavors in history: to sample the DNA of every living species and build a repository of all life on Earth.
I think, to my parents' concern, all of my early memories relate to biodiversity, not them for the most part. When I was 5 and I walked out and saw a chunk of limestone, and in it was this perfectly preserved trilobite, and opened the door to deep time biodiversity. It's sort of an amulet. I still got it all these years later.
Hébert's childhood fascination with the moths and millipedes of Canada would unfold into the career of a university biologist. With far-flung expeditions to remote Australia, Papua New Guinea, the Arctic, Hébert had joined the centuries-old scientific effort to catalog Earth species, finding abundant frustration with his progress. His students would bring him specimens to identify, and he'd shrug.
I devoted my life to understanding biodiversity, and I wasn't getting better at answering their questions.
Early estimates predicted Earth was home to about 10,000 species. Today, biologists believe there are 50 million. Scientists have logged roughly 2 million, an impressive number considering a single researcher like Hébert might devote his life to studying a handful of insects.
The method of cataloging hasn't changed much. Scientists study organisms and write down what they see.
If you look at a morphological species description today, it will often exceed 10 pages in length. Well, if you start multiplying that by the potential 50 million species, you're looking at a billion-page encyclopedia of life.
Hébert had traveled the Earth, only to find a solution in his local grocery store.
I'd never thought much about barcodes really, but I was walking through a supermarket, pulled a few cans off the shelf, and looked at the code. Wow, it's just 12 numbers long. We need something like this for biodiversity.
His barcode would be DNA. Building on the growing use of genetic data to study individual specimens, Hébert envisioned a massive scale-up. Sequencing just a minuscule segment of about 600 nucleotides would be sufficient to tell apart one species from another. Importantly, it was also inexpensive. Hébert's plan was to employ his discovery to characterize all life on Earth.
Hébert began a decades-long fundraiser to launch the Barcode of Life initiative, and now operates one of the most remarkable laboratories in the world. Inside the Center for Biodiversity Genomics at the University of Guelph, specimens arrive by the truckload, entering an assembly line of sorts, where researchers isolate, photograph, and sequence the barcode of every single organism.
How can one not get excited about biodiversity? And what is all that gray dust in there? And where are your samples from? Oh, that's special. That's gorgeous.
As we watch the team process a recent shipment from South America, we see barcoded specimens heading to cold storage on levels filled with freezer units, while others are preserved in library-like stacks. This pocket-sized device does what previously required a full-scale genetics lab. Anyone can take one into the woods, find a frog, swab its skin for DNA. The sequencer interfaces with your smartphone, providing a readout of the barcode and information on the species. By 2010, Hébert had amassed a catalog of over 500,000 species, making the data available to researchers worldwide. The next benchmark is a more ambitious 5 million. And with each crate and container to pass through Hébert's doors comes the potential of another species new to science, waiting to be discovered, recorded, and added to the world's largest compendium of life.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Earth and Environmental Science, Paul Hébert. Paula Hammond is part chemist, part architect. The molecular structures rising in her lab offer new ways to combat disease and heal the human body with incredible precision.
I grew up in Detroit, not a suburb of Detroit, but actual Detroit, which is important. I was really interested in nature. I had a tendency to go out in the backyard, pick up leaves and sticks, poke at ants, pull leaves apart so that you can see how they're structured.
Graduating high school at just 16, Paula Hammond left her hometown for MIT and her first look at the deep complexities of nature's building blocks. Today, she's a world-renowned chemical engineer.
I think of myself as an interested, curious, excited and engaged human who really gets excited about science and how science can make a difference in human lives.
From fuel to medicine to agriculture, chemical engineers design processes and machines that influence humanity on a global scale. Back in the mid-90s, as a young researcher at MIT, Hammond was dreaming up a new class of machine, tiny molecular-scale chemical devices built one layer at a time.
It's like building a skyscraper from structurally dissimilar floors. First, a little polymer chemistry to fashion the many planes of repeating molecules she'd need. This one, an insulator. That one, conductive in just the right way. Then the tricky part, riveting the incompatible layers together by alternating electrical charges, all stuck together because opposites attract. The result? A battery electrode a few molecules thick, a barely visible transparent film. But it was Hammond's mastery of the layer-by-layer assembly process that earned renown.
I think of myself as a molecular engineer. We build from the ground up, layer by layer, function by function, producing films far thinner than a human hair. In them, I see a new future for medicine.
Today, at the Koch Institute for Cancer Research, Hammond's films are debuting as trailblazing biomedical implants, capable of adhering to organs, skin, bone, and more.
And it turns out that these films are so thin and they're able to conform to any shape. We can coat virtually anything with them.
In a breakthrough almost certain to revolutionize medicine, Hammond layers the films with special protein molecules that recruit stem cells and engage the body's natural repair mechanisms.
We can actually design materials that can help a joint repair more rapidly. We can coat, for example, a very simple degradable scaffold with thin films that help generate bone.
In the near term, Hammond has high hopes to bring a new treatment for ovarian cancer to the 300,000 women diagnosed each year, as well as a gene-editing biofilm that could cure sickle cell anemia for 20 million people around the globe.
I think that one of the things that has made me happiest when I look over my career is how I have impacted the lives of others. And that for me is what gives me that feel-good feeling, even more than the incredible discovery in lab, which has always been a feel-good feeling.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Chemistry, Paula Hammond. I now welcome to the stage Jim Dever, President of Bank of America in Greater Philadelphia and head of the private bank in Pennsylvania and Delaware.
For 22 years, Bank of America has supported the awards ceremony and dinner as presenting sponsor. As mentioned in my video with Lynn, this is one of Philadelphia's best events and our personal favorite. Not just because it is a fantastic party, though it is, but because of what it honors and celebrates, and because of the ripple effects it has. The work of the laureates lends inspiration to the ways we can champion science, technology, business, collaboration, and innovation, from supporting STEM education initiatives across the region to investing in the Franklin Institute's mission and programs and connecting others to this science center. The Franklin Institute is an incredible partner and is doing necessary work for its STEM community near and far. And Bank of America is proud to not only support this annual ceremony and dinner, but to also be a part of bringing TFI's Reimagined Science Center to life. Like TFI, Bank of America has a long history of working across Philadelphia and the country to help people achieve their dreams and in turn positively shape their communities. We've seen the power of investing in the city to ensure all Philadelphians are set up for success, from promoting economic mobility through job initiatives and improving racial equity. On behalf of Bank of America's employees and clients, I offer our heartfelt congratulations to all of the laureates. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. For Janet Worker, the babbling and cooing of infants are the sounds of scientific discovery. From what is arguably the world's most adorable laboratory, Worker has revolutionized our understanding of the origins of human language.
It's hard for your brain to learn a new language. To demonstrate, a simple challenge: repeat some unfamiliar words. Listen to a few bars of this famous song, sung in the endangered language of Mi'kmaq. If you're one of Mi'kmaq's 10,000 remaining speakers, this will be a thought experiment. For everyone else, try repeating a lyric. A tip: it's easier if you can figure out where the words begin and end, but chances are you'll struggle. The reason is revealed by the game-changing research of developmental psychologist Janet Worker.
When I was 11, I did an experiment for the science fair on the effect of drugs on spiderweb building. I had 4 different spiders in 4 different containers, and I gave one a stimulant, one a depressant, one a psychedelic drug, and I think the other was the control spider. They all built the same webs.
Okay. Worker spent much of her childhood studying the wildlife of Kansas in a passionate bid to understand animal behavior.
At some point along the way, I started thinking humans were pretty wonderful. And if you think about us as a species, sort of our quintessential trait that distinguishes us from pretty much all other animals is language.
Most of us acquire a native language with relative ease within the first few years of life. After that, we struggle. People have wondered why for centuries. In the late 1980s, while a young professor at the University of British Columbia, Worker began designing experiments that overcame a key stumbling block: how to study language learning when your critical study subjects are nonverbal.
Using brain imaging technology and speech sounds and video cues to shift attention, Worker conducted research in infants beginning just hours after birth, with some studies beginning in utero. She found her answers in how the developing brain processes sound.
When you listen to language, you're dividing the long sentences into clauses and into phrases and into words, and those words actually into syllables, and those syllables are made up of phonetic units.
From the earliest moments, an infant's brain begins organizing the speech sounds of caregivers into a fingerprint of language, homing in on sounds and patterns that commonly start and end words in the family's native language. When multiple languages are spoken, babies develop those fingerprints for each language.
Around 9 months after birth, Worker subjects stop reacting to speech sounds outside the fingerprints. The brain actually loses its ability to distinguish said sounds. If you struggled with the challenge at the beginning of the film, this is why. Yet Worker's revelations go deeper, showing that language results from an elaborate mosaic of multisensory experiences, including visual and tactile cues. Infants actually begin practicing basic mouth movements in utero, and later hone them by watching their parents in the first stages of life. Over the years, these ideas have taken root in healthcare, inspiring new interventions to aid in the recovery of certain brain injuries, and influencing speech therapy techniques around the world.
So I'm passionate about language, and I'm passionate about development, and I'm passionate about their intersection and our ability to, talk about things that never existed and imagine and create plays, etc. What is it about us? How are we prepared by evolution to be able to acquire language is just something I've been trying to understand my entire scientific career.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Computer and Cognitive Science, Janet Worker. In a world shaped by industrial manufacturing, one challenge has consistently bounced back to confound engineers, simulating the unpredictable behavior of rubber-like materials. Mary Boyce's solution stretched materials science to its limits.
Think of a material that can stretch, bounce, cushion, suffer incredible deformation, yet always return to form. From the design of the treads on your car tires to the seal inside your water-resistant phone, the elastic magic of rubber-like materials touches every corner of our lives because Mary Boyce gave engineers the power to simulate the stretchy stuff.
I feel my journey is really an American story, that my grandparents all came to the U.S. from Ireland with very little resources and no education. Hard work and persistence becomes sort of ingrained in your values and transmitted to generations going forward.
By the 1980s, that determination would be put to the test. Boyce had grown up in New Jersey with a passion for math, becoming a young mechanical engineering researcher at MIT just as computers began influencing industrial product design. With the right code and the push of a few buttons, engineers could simulate plastics, metals, and other rigid materials. In a rigid material, the molecules tend to remain static, resisting change until a mathematically predictable amount of force is applied. Non-rigid materials like rubber and elastic are a different story.
As you stretch a piece of elastic, the molecules inside instantly begin to deform, changing moment to moment. The math important for simulations is impossible to gather from measurement alone. Boyce understood that simulating rubber, for instance, could only be possible by understanding what was going on inside the material when you stretched it. She and her team visualized chains of molecules, or polymers, unraveling when stretched. The model, developed and perfected over a decade, allowed engineers to simulate rubber-like materials with precision for the first time in history.
There's a lot going on in there when you're trying to actually design a new product, a new function. You need to really understand how that microstructure underneath gives that mechanical behavior, that performance, those properties.
Chances are the tires on your car and the soles of your sneakers were conceived within Boyce's simulations, alongside countless consumer and industrial products worldwide. Today, Boyce envisions a future of designer polymers and elastics.
We can design really sophisticated elastomeric materials in different types of geometries and put them together in different ways to create functions that we would not have thought of 20, 30 years ago.
What Boyce calls soft robotic materials deform from one useful shape to another when force is applied. Imagine noise-limiting architecture, walls that change shape to dampen external noise when struck by sound waves, or a microfilter that closes to water but allows air to pass. Polymer chains that unravel or contract under force or current might be the foundation for artificial muscles. In the future, the material becomes the device. Form is function, and with each microscopic transformation engineered in Boyce's lab comes the possibility for a widespread technological one.
That's also part of being a scientist and an engineer, that you really keep your mind open, that you're open to different disciplines and how those can come together. So I think that molds together with being curious about the world and everything around you.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Mechanical Engineering, Mary Boyce. Lisa Su's journey from meticulous engineer to the helm of a global tech company is a testament to the power of curiosity and vision. Under her guidance, AMD is refining what's possible in the digital age.
I've always loved semiconductors. The idea that you could put all of these little devices onto a chip the size of a dime, that can be so powerful. It's always been the thing that's really inspired me and energized me around technology.
Born in Taiwan, Lisa Su immigrated to New York when she was 3. Her mother, an accountant turned entrepreneur, and her father, a statistician, saw to it that Su's math skills stayed sharp. Around the dinner table, meals came with the possibility of pass or fail tests.
And that's what growing up was like. My brother had one of these remote-controlled cars that would go up and down the hallway, and one day it stopped working. We sort of unscrewed it and saw that there was a wire that was loose, and if we connected the wire back, it would actually start working again. So that was kind of my first remembrance of engineering and how to make things work.
In 1986, at MIT, Su began deconstructing the technology underpinning the most advanced circuitry in the world, the semiconductor chips that power computers.
It's like run towards problems. We're always going to be working on interesting things, but run towards something that's important.
In 1999 at IBM, Su led the team that re-envisioned the way computer chips talk to each other, how they're interconnected. By replacing aluminum wiring with copper, chips became faster and smarter. Su had helped revolutionize the industry, establishing a track record as a leader and innovator, and caught the attention of one of the biggest chip makers in the US. AMD helped make personal computers a fixture in American homes. In fact, an entire industry of home-built PCs rose up around AMD's competitive pricing. But as the 2010s ushered in an era of mobile computing, the old family desktop began collecting dust. When Su became CEO, 80% of AMD's business was still in PCs.
We made a big bet, which is we were going to build the next high-performance computing chips in a different way. This hadn't been done before. This is the way that we could really bring significantly more performance at lower costs.
As computers got smaller, faster, and cheaper, she shifted focus to gaming and AI, and the bet paid off. AMD's chips are used in the largest servers and data centers, in cloud companies, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, in PlayStation, Xbox, and even on Mars.
I like to be able to, see that what I'm working on makes a difference. It's been, super important for me to work on things that I know are important in the industry, that can change the industry, that are the next big leaps.
In 2014, Su shattered the silicon ceiling to become the first woman CEO at AMD. Su was also the first woman to receive the IEEE Noyce Medal, and by 2017, Fortune named her one of the world's greatest leaders. These days, she still makes room for a round of golf or jumping in the ring for an occasional boxing match.
I do have a trainer that comes to the house a couple times a week, and so I hit, she doesn't hit back.
Su remains devoted to the very passion that's guided her life, the pursuit of possibility.
When I started as an engineer, I would often walk into rooms of, 25 or 30 engineers who were certainly more experienced than I was, and most of them were men. Really having the confidence to speak up in those environments and to make a difference. One of the things I like to say when I encourage young women to come into engineering, things are actually pretty black and white. That's actually a really nice thing. Once you find the courage to actually speak up, you can actually make a huge difference if your ideas are the right ideas. The work speaks for itself.
The recipient of the Bauer Award for Business Leadership, Lisa Su. And now please welcome Board of Trustees Chair Tom Lynch.
Well, this is certainly a tough act to follow, everybody who's been up here, but I'll do my best. It's an amazing night, isn't it? The idea of bringing curious and civic-minded people together was something to which Benjamin Franklin devoted much of his life. He once wrote, "The good particular men may do separately is small compared to what they may do collectively." He would now change that to be men and women, of course. In this spirit, Ben assembled a group of tradesmen to discuss current events, education, the liberal and mechanical arts. The members of this group came to call themselves the Junto, after the Latin word for joined together. In the beginning, there were 12 inaugural members, and they founded some of the cornerstones of this great city: the Library Company of Philadelphia, the American Philosophical Society, Pennsylvania Hospital, and what would come to be the University of Pennsylvania. Amazing. Samuel Von Merrick and William Keating, along with 28 others, then joined together and founded the Franklin Institute 200 years ago. Did we tell you this, the 200-year anniversary? I thought I was going to get to do that, but everybody else took it. But this amazing organization has been providing science education to tens of millions of people across the country over this time. Today, I think Larry mentioned this also, TFI is the most visited museum in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and will reach over 1 million people this year through in-person visits, national programs, youth programs, professional development for educators, and digital content. And if you had the opportunity to be here on a busy school day, it's really exhilarating, and you get the feeling that somewhere out there that day is the next Einstein. It brings science to life, I think. In today's digital, virtual world, we can't lose sight of the fact that feeling things and touching things and seeing how they work is really where inspiration comes from. As the latest version of the Junto, we are leading the Franklin Institute into its 3rd century, and we're off to quite an exciting start with the first phases of Mission WOW campaign, which is completely transforming this amazing place, and you'll see some of that tonight. I'll leave you with this Ben quote: "I begin to be almost sorry I was born so soon, since I cannot have the happiness of knowing what will be known 100 years hence." Imagine how amazed he would be to see where science has taken us and what men and women have discovered and accomplished. I think you'd be quite proud, Ben, of what the Franklin Institute has done to honor your legacy. To all of you, thank you for your support. Enjoy the evening. And now I'll turn it back to Derek.
Thank you, Tom. And now our final laureates. The modern world is increasingly bound by the threads of the internet. Robert Metcalf laid the first digital fibers with a breakthrough technology that connected computers around the world.
I'm an engineer entrepreneur, curious about everything. I mean, everything. Curious to a fault, if that's possible. I like people. I didn't always like people, but somewhere in the early 80s, something snapped and I began to appreciate people more. But I don't like people who are late.
When it comes to revolutionary computing technology, Bob Metcalf was there from the start. In 8th grade, he'd built his first crude computer with parts scavenged from model trains. And in October 1969, while a graduate student at Harvard, he'd helped establish the world's first computer network between the massive university mainframes of the ARPANET.
At Xerox Research, where I went in 1972, we decided to build the first personal computer. arguably the first personal computer, which needed a different kind of network.
At Xerox, the vision was clear. A machine at every desk, hundreds in total, all sharing a single printer. Networking them fell to Metcalfe. At the time, networking was no small task. Different computer systems spoke wildly different languages. Expensive mainframe computers served as interpreters, but these had to be extensively tailored to every single device on the network. New machines couldn't be added easily, and ultimately, there was a limit to the number of devices a mainframe could handle. Metcalfe's solution needed to be simple to use. Physical cables that could easily connect new machines to the network, eliminating the mainframes and limitations on new connections. A chip at every connection point, uniting computers with a standard set of rules for sending and receiving information. Metcalfe had invented a universal design for computer communication. But although he used thick coaxial cables to connect his initial network, he planned for a future that could be built on any medium.
The ether, or luminiferous ether as it was called, was a physics theory that said there was a medium that carried light from the sun to the earth, just like air carries sound. So we chose that word, ether, an omnipresent, passive medium for the propagation of electromagnetic waves, Ethernet.
Metcalfe went on to found 3Com, which helped put Ethernet into new computers everywhere. As it linked more and more devices over wires and airwaves, Ethernet became the data-pumping heartbeat of a connected world. For someone who didn't always like people, Metcalfe has become something of a tech industry folk hero, like that time in the 90s when he penned an editorial forecasting the internet's demise.
I did not forecast the demise of the internet. I forecast the collapse of the internet that would last for a certain period of time. And we had one of those. We just didn't have one as big as the one that I predicted. I was only off by a factor of 8.
Yet, having promised critics he'd eat his words if he was wrong, Metcalfe did exactly that on stage at a World Wide Web conference as thousands cheered.
I took the column, I put it in the blender, and ate it.
Today, Ethernet remains the bedrock of our digital infrastructure, a conduit to the boundless digital age, ensuring that the world is just a click away.
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Electrical Engineering, Robert Metcalfe. In the face of our planet's escalating climate crisis, Joanne Corey plants a seed of hope with a groundbreaking idea that our greenest resources might be our greatest allies in the fight to reverse climate change.
When we talk about climate change, we're often talking about the human ability to cope with change. Mass migrations, flooded coasts, instability in supply chains. The problem seems bigger than any of us, and yet one geneticist is rising to the challenge. Joanne Corey believes plants can save the world.
So I'm a good example of what happens in 2 generations of an immigrant family. I know how to cook the Lebanese food, and I know some swear words, but I don't remember any of the other nice words my parents said.
Corey grew up near Boston, interested in anything but plants. When she first walked into Harvard's plant biology lab, she was nearly 30 years old with a PhD from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign and a background in bacterial genetics. But in the greenery, Corey saw opportunity.
And I said, I could really make a difference in this field. And that meant a lot to me, to make a difference.
Corey joined the lab as a researcher and began to tackle some of the biggest questions in plant biology. In one experiment, she doused thousands of seeds with a gene-mutating chemical and planted them in darkness. Studying the handful of ghostly white mutated plants that sprouted, Corey worked out the mechanisms that prevent plants from growing in the dark.
I like working on plants because I don't mind killing them, I guess.
Over the next decade, Corey's star grew as she deconstructed plant genetics, discovered new hormones, and teased out their elaborate roles. She joined the prestigious Salk Institute in 1988, and as more and more pieces of the biological puzzle fell into place, she grew closer to her ultimate goal, revolutionizing agriculture with science. Crops that grow bigger, produce more, replenish nutrients in soil. By 2004, Corey was on her way.
I was in my 40s. I had some stiffness on my left side. I had a good doctor, and he sent me to a neurologist. And he looked at me and said, "You have Parkinson's." My son was in kindergarten, my daughter was in 3rd grade, I think. And I tried to explain it to him, but I didn't look as sick then as I do now, you know. So I had one, I always get a little teary when I tell this. But anyways, I had one goal, and that was to get my kids out of high school. And this year, they're 28 and 25, and they both got engaged. So they're out of high school, they're out of college, they got jobs, and now they're getting married. So I feel like I lasted long enough to get them there.
Following her diagnosis, Corey never stopped working, pushing out breakthrough research with the help of medication. When the medication began to lose effect, an experimental brain implant kept her symptoms at bay as she churned out 117 publications in 10 years. In 2014, Corey's symptoms were beginning to catch up to her. That same year, greenhouse gas levels in Earth's atmosphere passed a critical threshold. Despite her illness, Corey felt she had to do something about it. With research partners at Salk, she formed the Harnessing Plants Initiative, embarking on her most ambitious scientific endeavor yet, to find a way to reverse climate change.
Plants breathe in atmospheric carbon, removing it from the air and using it to build roots, trunks, and leaves. When plants decay, the carbon can remain locked into the soil for thousands of years. Left to nature, the effects aren't big enough to offset climate change. Corey's ultimate discovery coaxes plants to do more by selectively breeding crops to contain higher levels of a chemical called suberin. Suberin is perfectly safe. In fact, you consume it every time you eat potatoes. The effect of elevated suberin is bigger crops with deeper roots that bury massive amounts of carbon in the ground, potentially enough to combat the climate crisis.
So the plants don't have to move or do any new function, they're just doing something they already do. But we just want them to do it a little better.
There's still much work to be done, but each day Corey arrives at the lab focused as ever, determined to convince the world that plants can save it.
I developed this passion for the climate. You know, this is something that's not like my old research to me. My old research to me was really great, but this is really like getting the plants. It's gonna save the world, maybe, you know?
The recipient of the Benjamin Franklin Medal in Life Science, Joanne Corey. And now, please join me in congratulating the 2024 Franklin Institute laureates.